Welcome back to the Mission 43 podcast. Today we're going to have David Goggins yell at you guys about getting up early in the morning, but we have someone way better than that. We have Kelly Cottle today. Kelly is a South African native who came here to Idaho to swim competitively for Boise State University. She's married to a combat wounded Marine, and she's now studying Master's of Social Work at the same Boise State. Kelly is one of the newest Mission 43 team members that's helping with all things military spouse related and also with Operation Resilient Path, or ORP. Specifically, she's helping veterans and first responders who are struggling from TBI, PTSD, and substance use disorder. Let's get after it. Welcome to the Mission 43 podcast, a podcast dedicated to discussing the struggles and triumphs of transitioning to life after the military. I'm Dan Nelson. I'm a former Army Special Forces officer who's personally experienced the challenges of transitioning to civilian life. In every episode, we'll be sharing tips, strategies, and real-life stories of veterans and their families who've chosen Idaho for their life after the military. So join us, and let's start the conversation. Kelly Cottle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for wanting me to.
You have such a lovely accent. It's New Jersey, right?
Yes, yeah. Austria.
Well, we're super excited to have you here to talk about a lot of things. We're also extremely excited to have you, or kind of our first Mission 43 intern that we've ever had outside of SkillBridge. You are a Master's of Social Work student at Boise State University. You've been working with us for a better part of a year now. It seems pretty wild, and we're hoping that you come on and stay on with us and working with Operation Resilient Path, or ORP. And we're also really thankful that you've been able to work a lot of the military spouse angle with Mission 43. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, I don't know if it's been a pleasure or not, but it's been some time for you to put in there. But I'm curious, can you tell people why you're actually interested in this? What makes you, as where you're at in your life, career, family, everything, decide to take this turn and get a master's in social work, and specifically to work with veterans?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a long journey there to where I am now. But basically, met my husband about 5 months after he was injured in Afghanistan, and so our relationship has basically been since then. So over the years, just my own experiences with him and supporting him through his journey of recovery and everything that's come after that, I just started to realize that there was a lot of information that I didn't have, and that I felt like was missing for spouses especially, and even service members as well, that have gone through these completely abnormal things, and how these experiences have impacted them over time too, and once they're removed from it years later, how it changes. And so I just kind of started feeling like there was something there, and then through my own experience, through my own learning, kind of realized that the Masters in Social Work, I have a health science degree in psychology and a lot of different interests, and have frustrated myself at times with not picking a lane. So I came upon this Masters of Social Work and realized how broad it is and how many different things you could do, which really works well for me. But it just felt like it would give me more tools, and I wanted more tools and something that would help me be able to help more. And so I didn't know exactly what that would look like, but this felt like something that would give me a better foundation. And I would just kind of been open to where that would lead me, obviously with the thought that veterans are a population I naturally care very much about, and their families as well. And so in going through this program, kind of came to the part where I needed to field placement internship experience, and was very fortunate, and sort of the timing was crazy, and asked you and sort of begged you to let me come on here. And it's been an incredible direct application of exactly what I would like to do with this. So it's been a wonderful experience.
It is a unique experience for us too, because Mission 43, we've always in some ways prided ourselves on not being clinicians, right? We have clinicians on our staff and partnered with and all that stuff that we send people to, but we really try to maintain that personal, interpersonal, whatever you want to call it, touch of being authentic and credible veterans and military spouses to connect. But you come to us and you're the weirdo that has both. You are the military spouse of a combat wounded Marine, and you're also going to be this social worker with a breadth of experience in the actual, the lived experience, for lack of a better term. I'm curious, is it weird that I think most people we talk to, they were either married or together when their spouse got injured, or they went through the deployment trauma, or it was like years later. And then yours is not really either. Mm-hmm. Like you're talking 5 months after your husband Jesse lost his legs in Afghanistan, right? He was Marine EOD. Mm-hmm. And then you meet him right in the midst of this. And like 5 months after getting your legs blown off, doesn't seem like it was a lot of time to, I don't know, figure things out. Or how was that experience for you, and how did you like play a part in that?
Well, it was certainly not something that was on my flight plan of life.
You didn't Tinder dudes that got blown up in Afghanistan?
It wasn't like a specific thing I was looking for by any means. It was sort of this random way that we met, and like I say, not something that I ever would have expected from myself. Not a population that I was very exposed to prior to meeting Jesse. And so it's been a journey for sure, but meeting him, and like you say, in some ways it's pretty cool that I met him afterwards, because that's the only version of him that I've known, and I chose to be with him in that way. So he has no doubt about that, or not even that it's a doubt ever, but that he knows that that's something I chose for myself as well.
That's unique.
And it is unique probably. And the difficult part is that I don't get to know what he was like before, and there's things that I wish that I could have done with him, or experiences like that. But it was never really a huge deal at the time. Like, it was obviously at first something different, but then getting to know him, he made it so easy to not even notice anymore and to forget about his injuries, that it really was just about him. It was about just getting to know him as who he was. So yeah, it wasn't as big of a deal to me, really.
Well, I think you guys met with that at that point in your life. I don't even know how old you are when you guys, either of you were. But you were what, fresh out of college, or were you still finishing college?
I was still in college, yeah, my junior year.
And you were a swimmer here at Boise State University.
Yes.
So you're a scholarship athlete at Boise State, and then you met Jesse, your husband, down in San Diego, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And how, I'm curious too, because, you're not from here. You're from South Africa. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, the experience is different, right? Don't you guys have the Comrades Marathon down there?
We do have the Comrades.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not unfamiliar, the spirit of service, but it is different, I imagine, than the coming into, this country. And then you probably came in the midst of the GWOT, or the Global War on Terror, right?
Yeah, we actually moved here not long before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just before 9/11.
Yes, just before 9/11.
So, but then that changes as well. So what was your level of familiarity with the United States military at the time that you're meeting Jesse?
Yeah. Not much. Like more like most people, we moved, like I said, not long before 9/11. So in some ways I feel like our experience of patriotism and of and all of that was the height of what it could be. People were so pulled together, and patriotic. And I think that in a lot of ways was really the silver lining of that time. Mm-hmm. My dad served in the South African Armed Forces, and both my grandfathers were in World War II from the South African end of things. So, but definitely different. Definitely different here. I feel the way that people support and come together and really celebrate, at least in this generation, their service members. But Jesse was certainly the first really personal experience I'd had with someone who actually served and was impacted by their service.
What was that like then, I guess? Because, coming here, you have the sense of patriotism, obviously, both for your home country and then your adopted home country. And it's not like you've been here for a minute. You've been here for a long time. This is your home. You're an American. But then to jump into something like that, is there a view of do you feel the patriotism? Do you feel the call and connection to the armed forces and the veterans among it? Or is it really just, the person that you're married to? If that's a part of his life, is it part of yours now? Yes,
I would say it's both. And I think being an immigrant gives you a different perspective on what it means to be American and what an opportunity it is to live in this country. And so I think while we weren't, and I'm very proud of being South African, that's always going to be a part of who I am. It's who my family has been for generations. And so there's that conundrum of feeling pride for both things. But coming here and it not being easy to immigrate and everything that it took to be a part of this country, I think we have a different appreciation maybe than some people who have always had it. And so I feel very proud. My whole family feels very proud of the fact that we get to be a part of this country. And I became a citizen in 2020, which was like a big benchmark for me. But I would say Jesse's made it more personal to me, and getting to know him and getting to know his peers and other veterans that he served with and their families has made it very personal to me. But I also feel very proud to be a part of this country as well. So
I'm curious because I've seen some things like you guys are, in your own right, quasi-celebrities. You and Jesse have been there, done that, done a lot of things with the Challenge Athletes Foundation. I think you guys were doing that when you met in San Diego at the time, if I recall. But he's very connected, like a lot of, I think, folks are to the guys that he served with, right? And guys got injured when he got injured and things like that. Was it a similar situation? Like, did they all have spouses at the time, or were you the new girl?
Some of them did. I mean, we met in January of 2010. So that period of time there was a lot going on. And so Jesse'd come back. He was injured in July of 2009. And then so that whole 2010 of getting to know each other, I mean, the guys that he was deployed with came back, and I got to meet them, and they left again very shortly after. And so some of them did have spouses, not many of them. I mean, it was mostly the EOD community, so they weren't around much, especially during those years. And definitely wasn't uncommon for them to be injured during that time too. I think Jesse was kind of on the front wave of some of the injuries that took place in his more immediate community.
What was that like for you? I imagine like it's a unique position to be in, that you meet this person, you obviously establish a meaningful connection, and then did you ever expect like to be thrust into a community that people are deploying, people are getting hurt? Like, was that ever on your radar? Was that something you ever prepared for?
No.
Were you prepared for it? Can you prepare for it?
No, exactly. Can anyone? No, and it's not. But I guess I felt really grateful to have a small understanding of the sacrifice that it really takes to have a country like this, to sustain a country like this. It's pretty abstract, I think, for most people. You can think about it and appreciate it, but you can't really until there's faces and names and people attached to those stories. So it was hard, but I'm so grateful to have some better appreciation for it, I guess. And even like, for example, I met Jesse during a swim meet down in San Diego, and so my teammates all met him at the same time, and he for a long time was just my friend Jesse with no legs. That's like how everyone referred to him. But even just that experience exposed my teammates in Boise, Idaho to somebody who'd been affected a little more personally by what was going on. So
Jesse's cruising the collegiate women's swim meets as a newly injured Marine. He's smarter than he looks. All right. Well, no, I mean, I think it's unique that, like you said, like no one can prepare for it, but you have that unique perspective of coming in and being thrust upon that. And I'm wondering, like, I guess you saw the tangible, right? When people are deploying over and over again, units like that are high tempo, low duration, people getting hurt, people, losing friends. At what point in that journey did you start to see maybe people suffering from the long-term effects of that? Or is that ever on your radar too? Like, is that something that just kind of surprised you, or is it something you expected after being exposed to all these people that are doing, like you said, like really abnormal things?
I think the long term, I hadn't really thought about at that point in time, but I could definitely see how these experiences were so abnormal that these guys were exposed to. I mean, I just couldn't even fathom. And I had conversations with Jesse early on, him and one of his team members, who's one of his best friends, both of their dads were in Vietnam. And so they fortunately were very aware of the impacts that these types of experiences can have on you psychologically. And so they would talk to each other while they were there, and they would like just get things out. And so I did wonder about that, and we did have conversations, and Jesse fortunately has always been aware of the fact that these things that impact you and you need to talk about them and deal with them. So, but from that point of just seeing what was going on and how this was impacting people, it's been a long journey over time to understand or have a better window into how these things manifest over time and what the long-term effects are. I had no idea because I didn't know yet. I hadn't lived it. I hadn't seen it. So,
well, you guys are also pretty exceptional in the sense like people look from the outside and objectively you're extremely successful. Both you and Jesse, your family, you're chronic overachievers. Like he became a PA after that and successfully practicing all kinds of crazy medicine in the Treasure Valley here. You know, after being a scholarship athlete, I mean, what, real estate? What else did you dabble in?
It's been a few things.
A number of things. And now choosing this Master's Social Work to be an LCSW and work with veterans and their families. Has it been smooth sailing since all like the dust cleared from, I mean, being injured in 2009 and here we are in 2025? Like, is it what you expected?
I don't think that I really knew what to expect, which is sometimes a blessing, I think, when you don't really know what's to come. Certainly from the beginning, I realized, and I remember having a conversation with my dad when Jesse and I were first dating, and he was like, this is not going to be easy. Like, this is something that will be difficult, and it's something, you know, your circumstances will either break you or they will make your relationship deeper and stronger than it would be otherwise.
I'm curious with your father, when you say it's not going to be easy, is that just marriage in general? Is it being married to a combat veteran, a combat wounded veteran? Like, what is it? I think
he mostly was referring to the, you know, extra circumstance of his injuries.
Sure.
Not his personality. But just knowing that this added a layer of challenge. Mm-hmm. It would add a layer of challenge to my life that I was choosing to take on. And I have very much found that to be true, although I didn't obviously understand exactly what that would look like. It has required a lot of us. It has required a lot of me. Marriage is difficult anyways, and this is an added challenge that we have, but we sort of have to stay pretty spot on with each other, otherwise the dynamic just doesn't work. Yeah. Because we rely on each other and he relies on me in extra ways. So I never felt like it wasn't even an option to me that I would choose not to be with him because it would be more difficult. Like, that just didn't seem, that was just never even an option, because he didn't get to choose whether he could deal with this or not. And so I just thought, that's not even a question. It has been a journey for me to learn how, it was a journey, especially at first, to learn how to best support him, when to push him, when not to push him. Mm-hmm. He has been so driven in his recovery from the beginning. Yeah. He was so determined to not let this be a thing that defined him. And so that he's a motivated, driven person anyways. But he felt as though if he was beaten by this, then the enemy won. And so that was his driving force, was to carry on and not let this slow him down. And so you mentioned he became a PA. I mean, he was in Bethesda at the hospital after getting back from Germany and was chatting with this guy at the hospital who was caring for him, and he was a PA, and he's like, what's a PA? And so the guy explained it. He's like, maybe I could do that. Like, from the beginning, like, he's already thinking, okay, well, my plans aren't going to work out.
What's next?
What else can I do? How else can I serve? And so I think that was it was a blessing for him to have a goal, because I think he realized that you can go one of two ways and you have a choice in how you respond to it. So he fortunately chose to carry on. And that is a wonderful thing. He went to University of San Diego. He got his undergrad. He went to PA school, one of the top PA schools in the country. He got a job. He's doing well. But that can also be, busyness and achievement can be also a distraction from the things that are hard as well. And I think it's been a journey for both of us, and for him to learn that, yes, he dealt with the initial and acute things, and he knew he had to, and he went through those initial, all the therapies and all the things that he did during his initial recovery very well. But that doesn't mean that you're not affected by what you went through. Are you telling me that it may not be the most healthy thing or sustainable thing to just bury yourself in work and helping others? I know, right? When you're not dealing with your own shit? Yeah. Oh, man. Turns out, darn it. Well, you're not a licensed, or you're not an LCSW yet, so take it for what it's worth. Yeah, you got some time. Yeah. So yeah, you can make the best of a situation that's difficult, but the situation still is not going to be easy. You can make the best of it, but you do still deal with, you can't escape the difficult parts of it. Yeah. And so it's something that we've learned. And as you know, we had kids or different things happened, our lives changed. It brought up different challenges that we had to learn and pivot, and that I had to learn how to support him through, and vice versa. So it's been very much not a linear trajectory. It's been ups and downs and learning and realizing certain things and tying it, just an educational experience for sure. But his overall positive attitude and determination has made it easy for me to want to come alongside him.
Well, he's a remarkable man, right? Like, he's done more than most people will ever do, regardless of if they've been injured or what they've been exposed to in their life. I mean, again, chronic overachiever and high performer, but so are you. And I guess, what advice would you have for somebody that's dealing with a spouse or a loved one that is in that dual role, especially, let's just say husband, wife, or spouse, or, whatever, loving couple of some kind, where you have to fulfill the role of a caretaker to some degree, but also maintain the relationship of a loving partner?
Yeah.
Like, how did you have help with that? Did you just figure it out as you went? Like, you and Jesse just figured out in which way, or like, was there any programs or anything that actually like give you guys advice and gave you a chance to open up?
Yes and no. It can be difficult to balance those roles. And like I mentioned before, like the extra ways that you depend on each other, that Jesse needs to depend on me, the vulnerability that he has to have with me. I have always felt we've fortunately been able to deal with that dynamic, because I recognize what a responsibility I have in that he has to be vulnerable with me. And so I can never use that as a weapon against him, which is, that's marriage anyways. It's that trust and that vulnerability. And so a lot of it is themes that everybody deals with as a couple. But there is that added challenge and that added dynamic. And so and it can look different for everybody. So I don't know what to say as a general feedback, other than I think separating the roles and not using those extra things that you have to do, not letting that become a resentment.
Yeah.
But that's from both sides. I think that
sure.
It could be easy to happen. So I feel like communication and talking, that has been the biggest thing that has helped Jesse and I, is just for me to be able to realize when something's happening, like something else is going on here, and for him to have to be humble enough to talk about it and to say, okay, this is hard, or that did affect me that way. And then we can have a conversation about it. And in turn, I can understand better so that I can be a better support. And then it's just more of a positive cycle than otherwise.
You guys are both above average or excellent communicators then.
I mean, we try to be, we're not always, but yes, that is like, it sort of demands that, I think.
Sure. I'm curious, like, what is it about Jesse that really stands out to you? Like, it's not your first rodeo and you guys making public appearances and things like that, and your story is one that people want to share. Does that put you in a weird spot, or does your family even, because I mean you guys have children now, like, do they see you guys as somebody with an inspirational story, for lack of a better term? The big I word, it can be demeaning at times, right?
No. I certainly don't think that they don't think of us as that, and I don't think we are either. I think both of us have always felt like, gosh, do we really have anything cool to say? Like, it always kind of feels like there's nothing, it's hard to view yourself that way, or, I view Jesse that way, just because I have a frontline seat to what he goes through, and he's truly just like the most kind, he truly doesn't ever complain. Like, he doesn't complain. He never feels sorry for himself. And I'm sure he has a lot of conversations with himself, but he doesn't burden our family with some of those thoughts. And I've tried to pull that out of him because I don't want him to carry it alone. And he will share certain things with me, but he truly is grateful for the opportunity that he has to still be alive. And he's grateful for our family and our kids. And he focuses. And I know that that's a conscious choice sometimes for him, but he chooses to focus on all the positives. And I think both of us just view any opportunity to share our story really as only a reflection on what so many people deal with in this country and what so many people are going through. And we have one small version of this. But a lot of people, deal with similar themes in a lot of different ways. And so if we can bring light to that, or we can encourage people in some way, both of us feel like that's a great gift and a great silver lining to the things that are hard.
Well, finding anyone that doesn't feel sorry for themselves on a regular basis or complain to others, I mean, that's pretty damn unique. I just got off the phone with my 9-year-old before this, and I was complaining about my day. That's just what I do. It's my normal thing. But just kidding. He doesn't have a phone.
Was it about this conversation you had to have with me?
But you guys didn't come to Mission 43 for quite some time. Like, it's not like you've been super involved. You've been kind of more involved, like I mentioned a little bit, like with Challenge Athletes Foundation, which is our sister program. It's fantastic. But what is it that either kept you away from Mission 43, or what is it that finally drew you in?
Well, by and large, we really just haven't been involved in a lot of foundations. I think just because of the nature of the way that Jesse has dealt with his recovery, there are a couple of foundations that were really, really helpful to him in the beginning and have been helpful to us over the years.
Garrison East Foundation, right?
Yes. So Semper Fi Fund is a big one in San Diego that helped Jesse a lot, and his family, his parents initially, and they just have always been a support to us. But
they're a fantastic organization.
They are. And in San Diego, the Challenged Athletes Foundation, Jesse's prosthetist does a lot of work with them, and so he did some stuff naturally through that. But really, he kind of made this choice to not be defined by his injuries. And so for better or worse, he really threw himself into his studies and school and work and everything. And so he didn't partake in a lot of organizations. The Garrison East Foundation is a huge one. Obviously we can get in, we don't have to get into that, but they built us an incredible home in Eagle that's fully adapted to Jesse's needs, and it has been a life changer for him.
I'd say it's a gift, but also it's well earned. So
I think so. I think he's earned it, but it's also not necessary. Nobody had to do that, so it feels like a gift. But I think he earned it. But so as far as Mission 43 goes, we've sort of been all over the place. We were in San Diego, we were in Denver for a few years. I never really thought that I would be living in Idaho. I came here for college, but it was really just to swim. But fortunately, my parents live up here, my brother. So when we were done in Denver, we decided to move our family up here. We had a couple kids at that stage, and so Idaho just seemed like a really great place to raise a family, and we thought, right, so we made the move up here. And I'd kind of heard a little bit about Mission 43, but because Jesse wasn't looking for anything in particular and never really is asking for help, I didn't really know the breadth of what you do here. So it was really through the field house being built and probably my encouragement for Jesse to start being more involved in certain things with people who understand his situation. Certainly through CAF here, it was really exciting. They actually brought up the Idaho chapter the year we moved back up here. So that was really exciting to see.
Well, Mission 43 too is not necessarily, certainly not full of wounded veterans. It's just mostly veterans and military spouses.
Absolutely.
And there are some that have that experience and others that don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We just hadn't had a reason to cross paths yet. But then in coming to check it out, learning about what all happens here was just really cool. I think it's the way that the foundation approaches helping veterans is just a really forward-moving, positive, uplifting, empowering approach. And I think that that's not always how it is in the veteran space. I think you maybe get more help when you're not doing well, and then when you start to do well, it's not there. And so I really appreciate the fact that Mission 43 is pushing people forward, and veterans are incredible, resilient, capable people, and how do we get them to be whatever they want to be? I think that that's just a really wonderful mission. I think mental health is a part of that because I think it's a piece of the puzzle, but I really appreciate the many pieces of the puzzle that Mission 43 addresses through the people here and through partnerships, because it has to be a whole person approach. Otherwise it can't, you're not as effective. So, well,
it's not really, in my opinion, and I'm not a clinician, not even studying to be one like you are, but it's really hard to think about making someone better or increase their well-being if you're just focused on TBI, substance use disorder, PTSD, physical wellness. Like if you're just focused on a thing, then seems like there's usually a little bit more to it than that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what is your goal for people that are watching now and they're like, okay, there's this funny talker, Mission 43's team now. By the way, I'm pretty sure her accent's fake. I don't know. You can drop it if you want. But either.
So committed now.
Yeah, you have to. What is it that you hoped to have your role develop into here at Mission 43?
I honestly didn't have any particular hope. I just felt like this was an opportunity to learn more, to hopefully be helpful in some capacity.
You've definitely been more than helpful. You're started all kinds of initiatives for us already. You haven't even started really working for us yet.
No, I mean, you guys have such incredible people working for you and all people who care, and you have given me the latitude to kind of come up with some ideas, which I've really appreciated. And I honestly have tried to stay open to wherever I can be useful and whatever that turns into. And so I obviously appreciate so much this opportunity, and to feel as though I could do anything helpful is really encouraging for me, and I've gained more than anybody else has through this whole experience.
Definitely not. No, you really led the charge. We asked you to think of some ideas of what could be done in the military spouse space for Mission 43. And like I told you when you started, like the past few years, we have tried to make military spouse wine night, military spouse range day, which is super fun, by the way. But that, impacts like maybe 20 people at a time, and it's episodic, and it never really forged the community that I was really hopeful for. And in the past, 14 months, seeing the military spouse growth in Mission 43 has been exponential compared to what anything we've ever had before. And then you came in and you planned these military spouse enrichment events once per month, every single month throughout this year. And we've only done 2 so far, but you have had fantastic turnout, fantastic feedback, and amazing results. What's the secret sauce? What is it that is working in Mission 43's military spouse, largely because of you, but I know you won't take that credit. But.
No, definitely not. I think as a whole, we're all kind of looking for community, especially at this point in time. And it's hard to find people to be surrounded with and to share your struggles with. And I think that the social events that you guys have done are incredible, and it's wonderful and needed to have space to relax and be with people. But coming from my background, I naturally kind of think of all the different facets that there are to being a military spouse. And I think when you kind of asked me to come up with some ideas, I was like, gosh, how do you create something? Being a military spouse is a unifying thing, but it can look so different for so many people, and
Absolutely.
Everybody's at a different phase, and they all need different things and different types of support. So how do you create an event that is meaningful to everybody without watering it down so much that it's not really meaningful to anyone?
Yeah.
And so the idea behind these enrichment series is that we could create something consistent where people could truly get to know each other in an environment where we're covering, a whole range of different topics. So hopefully we would have the opportunity to touch on something that was meaningful to most people throughout those series. And really, hopefully, the spouses keep coming back and getting to know each other, and you can have opportunity to discuss these, deeper topics and create connection that you wouldn't necessarily easily do in a social setting at a one-off event. And so that was kind of the thought behind that, is that when you have more time together, you get to talk about these topics that are relevant to you as a spouse, that are unique to military spouses. My hope is that you could then develop that community of support while also getting more tools and more information, and also probably realizing what all Mission 43 has available to spouses, because there's so much, and sometimes it's intimidating. And so hopefully this is a less intimidating first step into further programming or just friends or whatever that support needs to be. But that's
been one of my favorite things about seeing this, is seeing so many military spouses, their applications come through for the Leaders Fellowship right now. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone talks about veterans nonprofits, and the few that do include military spouses, like truly include military spouses, typically don't do so in every facet. Mm-hmm. But that is something for us that is extremely important. Like, it's not an afterthought.
Yeah.
And even though I historically have done a poor job of making programming that's really comfortable, like you've done for military spouses to feel comfortable joining in, it's something like some of our best Leaders Fellows we've had. best by far. And the 6 cohorts that we've had so far are military spouses. I mean, it's something that is necessary, and not just for them. It's necessary for our organization. It's necessary for our community because they become these leaders. I'm curious of the ORP thing too. Someone's watching and either thinking about maybe reaching out to you or Brad and getting help with whatever it is, TBI, PTSD, substance use disorder, whatever. What can you bring to the table for them, I guess? Like, you have this unique opportunity, I think, to, if it's Dan going through hyperbaric oxygen treatment, there's usually someone attached to me or someone, you know, and you have an opportunity to help walk them through that path. Is that something that, I don't know, you're hopeful for to continue to expand?
Yes, I mean, it would be an honor for me to support anyone in that position. As you mentioned with the military spouse, the Leaders Fellowship and the other programming that is truly for military spouses as well, and the mutual benefit that our community gets out of that. I think spouses, just the nature of it is that they a lot of times have sacrificed what they wanted to do, or, you know, their first choice in career or whatever. And really, I think it's important for them to be acknowledged for what they've done, but also seen as individuals themselves too. And I think just naturally women don't always view themselves as leaders. And so I think the Leaders Fellowship is an incredible opportunity to reframe that, because women are incredible leaders, and military spouses have experiences that are so unique and so beneficial to the community for them to be a part of things that being a support in the times that are difficult. I mean, I think I understand from my own personal experience, at least a version of it. I know what some of those extra challenges are. I know other people, I know other spouses who have walked that path. And I think all of us need support at different times and in different ways. And so my hope would be that I could use my experience with my education to hopefully recognize more personally some of those challenges and be a support. I think so much of it is just understanding and having information and feeling supported yourself, and being viewed not just as a support to someone else, but also as a person too who's going through this or whatever it is. I would love to be a part of that, because I just don't think that there's anything more important that I could do with my time, really. So,
well, it's been fantastic to have you with us so far in the capacity that you have been. I'm just truly thankful for both you and Jesse being a part of this organization and being willing to share your story, because for a lot of us, it's incredibly important, humbling, and it serves as a reminder that these little things that any of us can do, we can avoid feeling sorry for ourselves. We can be better communicators with our loved ones. It's easy to ignore that stuff until you have people that are actually living it and willing to share that story as well. Truly thankful for you, Kelly.
Appreciate it, Dan, likewise.
And if anyone is watching that is interested in reaching out to Kelly, either with it's with anything to do with military spouses, anything to do with Operation Resilient Path, it's kelly.cottle, C-O-T-T-L-E, at mission43.org. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of her a lot soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us for the Mission 43 podcast. We hope you found it informative and helpful. If you have any questions or feedback, please comment below or email podcast@mission43.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast to stay up to date with new episodes. Be proud of your service, not defined by it. See you next time.